Good morning. I'm calling the meeting to order. I'd like to first inform everyone that the Steamship Authority is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. If there is anyone else making a recording of today's meeting, please identify yourself by raising your hand icon, or if you're joining by phone, press *9 on your keypad, and when recognized, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Don't see anybody.
All right, the next I have to announce the statement concerning remote participation. In accordance with Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021, all members of the Steamship Authority's IT Working Group are participating remotely in today's meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members hopefully will be clearly audible to each other. Pursuant to that statute, the Steamship Authority has ensured public access to the deliberation of the working group today for interested members of the public via Zoom. And a link to access to this meeting via Zoom has been provided in the meeting notice for today's meeting. All right, with that aside now, I guess we can move to our first agenda item, which is continuation of the evaluation of the consulting proposals. And if I could call on Steve to just give us a recap of where we are in the process and what our next steps are.
Sure, Mr. Chair. Let me share my screen. We are working in order to make a recommendation to the board as to whom they should award contract 7-2023 for IT management consulting services. And the IT working group is charged with evaluating the consulting proposals that were submitted.
James, I think you should mute yourself. It sounds like we're getting.
Okay.
Oh, no, it was John. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all right. And then after the IT working group evaluates the consulting proposals according to the RFP and decides what revisions to any of the consulting proposals it would recommend, it will then open up the financial proposals of the 8 proponents. Last meeting, the IT working group pretty much completed its evaluation of the consulting proposals. And they did so and filled in this evaluation chart as they evaluated the proposals. They first evaluated the background information in each proposal, the IT consulting experience of each proponent, the proposed performance of consulting services, and the proposed contract provisions that were provided by the proponents. And then based upon those individual evaluations for those criteria, they gave each proposal a composite rating. By the end of that meeting, one proposal had a highly advantageous composite rating, that's Project 202. One proposal had a strong advantageous rating, that was Givus. We still don't know how to pronounce that name. 2 had advantageous ratings, and those were Intrasystems and RSM. And 3 had weak advantageous ratings, Anchor Operating System, Blackline Consulting, and Comtech. And 1 had a not advantageous composite rating, and that was Moran Shipping Agencies. At that time, the IT working group decided to continue their meeting until today at 9:30 and to reflect upon themselves what revisions they would recommend to the board would be made to any of the 4 highest ranked rated proposals. They aren't ranked yet, they're only rated. And those would be the proposals submitted by Givus, Intrasystems, Project 202, and RSM. And that would be the first item on the agenda today, unless people wanted to revisit these ratings that they gave to the proponents last week, because they are not yet final and no vote has yet been taken.
Thank you. Before we move on to I guess, as Steve said, does anyone have a rating category for any one of the 7 proponents that they'd like to change or discuss.
All set.
Okay. All right, not hearing any. In order to help the IT, I'm going to stop sharing this because we now know where we are. In order to help the IT working group go through the consulting proposals, I prepared a memorandum to all of you on Friday. Unfortunately, it was late afternoon. So if you didn't get a chance to work this weekend, where I suggested that certain revisions be made to the 4 highest rated proposals. I also had gone through the other 4 proposals, and I did not see any provisions in those proposals that I thought merited recommending revisions. But we had agreed to focus on these top 4 rated proposals. And if we would go through Gibus in alphabetical order, my only suggestion is that their proposal envisions a very active IT working group involved in the process during the time that they perform their services. You would be responsible for getting all the information to Gibus. You would be responsible for meeting on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to go over everything, and in charge of coordinating things, as well as evaluating the quality of their services. My suggestion is that you may want to discuss that. For the most part, the management of services when they're being provided by a consultant to the Steamship Authority, those are usually the contact person is almost always designated by the general manager, and it's a management function as opposed to a public body function, in order to facilitate the provision of services, get the people to communicate, and to do an ongoing evaluation of whether they're on budget, whether they're on track, those types of things. But it may be appropriate for the IT working group to check in periodically and assess the results of what the consultant is doing. And that is my suggestion, for lack of a better thing, either to do it on either a monthly basis or do it during certain points during their schedule that can be determined, so that you can, when they reach a milestone for the IT working group, to come in and see how things are going. I know that the IT working group is envisioned to have some type of continuing oversight of this project. Also, the sense is whenever the IT working group has a meeting, they're going to have to notice that meeting, and much of this information, I imagine, will be exempt from public disclosure under the public records law and the open meeting law, and therefore you would have to go in and call an executive session. So doing that on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis may be too much hassle, and I don't think it would, well, I think it would be less efficient than having those weekly or bi-weekly matters the responsibility of the general manager and whoever the general manager designates to be the primary contact with this consultant.
Any discussion?
I agree with Steve that Bob should assign someone as the project manager and a report, possibly even maybe at the board meeting like we do with the other projects. In the port council meetings.
James, you're muted.
I agree as well. I mean, it's something I when I read Steve's comment, I was like, yeah, that should definitely be assigned to somebody else.
John, do you have any comments?
No, I'll just echo what Mark and James had to say.
Yeah, well, being one of the 2 members of the IT working group who it's a civic volunteer duty, not a paid duty. I wholeheartedly support Steve's suggestion. As well as I don't necessarily think, not only is it a management should have oversight of the contract, but I also think the board should have oversight over the manager's performance and having oversight of the contract, and not this working group. So I do like the idea of perhaps being brief during phases of the project to provide overall feedback. And our feedback would be to the board. But it's something is where they envision, I don't think that's not only a good idea, I don't think that's what the board had in mind when they created this working group.
All right. Everyone seems to be in agreement. So it's going to be a recommendation to revise that proposal accordingly so that management is in charge of coordination, logistics, and designating a project manager with regular reports back to the board and the port council.
Steve, do we need a motion on that or not?
I think you can wait until the end for the entire.
Okay.
So the next proponent is IntraSystems. I didn't have any recommended revisions to its proposal. And so the next one is Project 202, and it submitted a more comprehensive proposal. So of course I have some more proposed revisions to it, and they're relatively small ones. But the first one is that in their consulting proposal on volume 2, page 76, they state that the individual team assignments may change prior to the start date of the contract, and the number of roles and comparable levels of experience between team members assigned to specific roles will not change. That's inconsistent with the RFP, which require that proponents identify the key individuals who will be involved in the contract to describe what their roles will be and provide their curricula vitae or descriptions of the relevant qualifications and experience. I know that the IT working group relied on the qualifications and experiences of the key individuals whom Project 202 identified in its consulting proposal as being members of its project team for this contract. And so I'm suggesting that this provision be revised to allow individual team assignments to be changed prior to start date only upon the SSA's written approval, which the SSA can withhold in its discretion with respect to any of those individuals identified by Project 202 in its consulting proposal as being members of its project team, but otherwise which approval will not be unreasonably withheld. So if they didn't identify the people, all they need is our written approval and we won't withhold it unreasonably. But with respect to the identified consulting team members, which was the basis for their highly advantageous rating, we want them to be on board unless we specifically agree to it. Going forward, and Mark Rosen picked up this issue with their proposal, the statement of work number 3 on volume 3, page 3, stated that should the project become stalled for more than one business day due to conditions not caused by or under the control of the vendor, such as extended approval time required by the Steamship Authority, the vendor reserves the right to charge the Steamship Authority 8 hours per day for each currently engaged vendor team member during the stall period, and for additional activities required to restart the project when the stall period is over. I understand that Project 202 may have a legitimate concern that unreasonable delays by the SSA might result in financial cost to Project 202, such as being required to pay employees for time during which they sit idle and have no other productive work to do. So it's a legitimate concern, but we also have a legitimate concern that we be provided reasonable time to fulfill our obligations under the contract, such as reasonable approval times, and that we not incur penalties for taking longer than anticipated to fulfill those obligations when our delay doesn't result in any financial cost to Project 202. So my recommendation is that the parties sit down and discuss this and negotiate a reasonable substitute provision for this. I don't want to dictate what that provision is going to be now, because until we discuss this with Project 202, we don't know exactly what they're concerned about. But reasonable people will come up with a reasonable solution. And General Counsel Terrence Keneally, I'm sure, can work that out. We don't have to bring that back to the IT working group or the board. It's just subject upon a reasonable substitute provision to the satisfaction of the Steamship Authority's General Counsel.
Are there any questions or comments? By the way, I think James, you had a comment.
You're on mute, James.
I agree completely. There can just be so much gray area in there that provision just seems a little bit unreasonable to me. It definitely requires some more discussion. When you're dealing with a project of this scope, it just there's just too many ways, too many directions that there can be gray areas for that. So definitely discussion should be had. Further discussion.
Does anyone else have a comment or question before I make mine? I would not only endorse that, I think we need to go further in the revision, that it's not just the SSA that would take on the cost of delays that weren't because of the SSA. Like act of God, what happens if all the Amazon servers go down because of a nationwide cyber attack? A hurricane hits the Cape while this is being performed. I think that those kind of things should be borne equally and not just fall to the Steamship Authority, which it seems that we would be responsible for any delays not caused by the vendor, even if they weren't caused by the Steamship Authority.
Right, and I don't think that is Project 202's intent, because the provision itself, it says they only reserve the right to charge. So my sense, since we've worked with them before, is that they wouldn't do this as a matter of course. It's only when they feel that they're being taken advantage of by the Steamship Authority. So I don't think they're going to have an issue negotiating a substitute provision.
And I understand their concern because the board delayed the launch of the website and app, which I'm sure caused them some delay.
Okay. All right. That's all I have for Project 202. The last one is RSM. And the one thing I would like to do, if you remember, RSM is a limited partnership with more than 1,100 partners. And they did not provide the information that was required by everyone regarding whether they had any of their partners had committed any offenses or been the subject of bankruptcy. Well, I'm asking that they confirm that none of the partners are officers, directors, officers, employees, or agents of the Steamship Authority. I think they should be able to confirm that. I think we are pretty sure that they are not. And also that none of their directors, and as far as we know, there are only 12 of them, have committed any of the offenses that are listed in the consulting proposal or have been involved in bankruptcy proceedings in the last 7 years. And if they have, then to identify those directors and describe the circumstances. That's something that all the other proponents did provide, and I think RSM should provide that as any condition of being awarded the contract. At the last meeting, John brought up this whole provision about RSM work product, that RSM would retain the ownership of its work product and we'd only be given a license to use it. And that's of concern mainly because the language used is so complicated. I don't even know what it accomplishes. And sometimes it's copyrighted, which I understand. Sometimes it's their underlying software, which I understand. But the basic thing is that they're going to give us deliverables under this contract, and we should be able to use that. And of course, and fully disclose that to the extent we want to. And it's our decision as to whether any of that deliverables is exempt from public records because of security issues. And so I think that we just have to sit down with them and get an understanding of what all of those provisions mean so that we may freely use any of our deliverables and that we may freely publish and disclose those deliverables, except to the extent we decide that they should not be published because of exemption under the for security reasons. and that we may freely disclose even those exempt provisions to others for use in connection with providing services to us. And that's, I can't believe that we will have a difficult time getting negotiation on that issue. And then some small things on their standard agreement, which I know everyone likes to put in, and there's a difference in philosophy of whether you try to negotiate these really what I consider to be almost stupid provisions in these form agreements. The master services agreement prohibits us from releasing any publicity, advertisement, news release, or public announcement regarding any aspect of the contract or the relationship of the parties without RSM's prior written consent. And that's totally impractical. So at any public meeting, we can't discuss RSM without its written consent. That the board can't do it, the Port Council can't do it. It just doesn't make sense, and it's something which I believe should be deleted from the agreement or a revision negotiated. They also say that it's a non-disparagement clause, which we can't speak badly of them and hurt their goodwill. And not only would that apply to us, but that would also apply to all of our employees and agents and board members and Port Council members. That is completely unenforceable, in my opinion, as a governmental agency. We have First Amendment rights. We couldn't express an opinion as to their services that would be in any way critical to them. And so I think that would be something that we would want to negotiate out or substantially revise. Finally, they have the same issue as Project 202. They have identified certain people as their project team for this project. And they do confirm that two of them, Lori Mosebrook and Mitchell Gore, will do that work. But in the proposal, they identified, I believe, 3 others, and they want the discretion to substitute those. And I'm suggesting that all the people that they identified in the proposal be required to work on the project unless they receive our written approval in advance. And then the last one is that because RSM's auditing branch is our auditors, they have to assure itself that of their independence in order to maintain that relationship. And so we have to agree to oversee RSM services under the contract and to designate an individual who possesses suitable skill, knowledge, and experience to do so, and that the individual understands the services sufficiently to oversee them. I don't have a problem with that, but then they go on to propose that it be Peggy Nickerson to fulfill that role of overseeing this entire project. And I think that would drive her off the ledge. She does so much as procurement officer. She could probably do something in order to understand all the IT services, but I don't think that would be the appropriate person to do it, despite her ability in so many other ways. Again, I think this should be a situation where General Manager Bob Davis selects the person who's going to be project manager, selects the person who is going to oversee the services and assume management responsibilities for the services. And again, I think going back to what we did with Gibus, that ultimately it's going to be the board and the Port Council who is going to evaluate the adequacy and the results of the services performed, and ultimately accepts responsibility for those results and the use of the services. So that would be my recommendation of a change, of a revision to that proposal. And that's the end of my suggestions.
Are there any questions or comments on RSM or any of the proposals?
I think in general, that Bob should assign a project manager to this project regardless. I mean, that should be a given. And to oversee regardless who the proponent is that's awarded the contract.
And the other 2 proposals do envision that, but they appropriately leave it up to the authorities' discretion as to who to select.
unless there's any more comments or questions, is there a motion to accept Steve Sayers' proposals as outlined in the memo that he just discussed?
Motion to move?
Motion to
There-
second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. James,
Ashley, I.
John,
Cahill, aye.
Mark,
Rosamine.
and Jeffrey, I.
All right.
You,
And
Steve.
the next thing to do would be to have a motion to rate these 8 proposals as set forth in this evaluation chart, along with the suggested revisions to their proposals that you've already just approved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
just
Good
a
job.
question to Steve. Can you explain what you would like us to do here? In
What-
further
what-
detail?
Well, you have not yet voted to rate these people as set forth in the chart. So I'm just asking you to, I know that before we went through the suggested revisions, everyone said they didn't have any suggested changes. So this is really just the formality of voting to rate these 8 proposals the way that they are rated on this evaluation chart.
Okay.
I have a question. It's just about the last column with the proposed contract portion of this. I mean, is this something that we need to be requesting because it wasn't provided in the way that we were looking for it?
Correct. The ones that we gave unacceptable ratings to, they didn't provide any proposed contracts at all. Anchor Operating System provided a scope of work. They refer to a master services agreement that they didn't provide.
Sure,
So
sure.
the question is now, so we've ranked their proposals based upon what they submitted. They didn't submit anything they got unacceptable. If, for example, Gibbous were awarded the contract, they now would be precluded from trying to propose contract provisions that we find to be
Okay.
acceptable. While with Project 202 and RSM, they've given us the opportunity to go through their contracts, and we've identified everything we have issues with. And so it's a lot easier to negotiate a contract with those two because we know what their positions are.
Thank you.
So Steve, you're looking for us to rank them 1 through 8, basically.
No rankings yet.
Okay,
Just to approve this, the ratings as set forth in this chart.
Oh, so just, you want a motion?
That's
Yeah.
correct. So we can go to the opening of the financial proposals.
Got it. I'd like to make a motion that we support the content in this chart for evaluation of consulting proposals.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry. Mark or James, who seconded? I didn't.
I did.
Mark,
Mark, all right. Any discussion? All right, a roll call vote. All those in favor?
Ashley, I.
Cahill, aye.
Rosamine.
Jeffrey, I.
All right. And now for the drama of today. After you have done that, the next step is to open up the financial proposals publicly. Peggy Nickerson, if I could ask Sean to allow Peggy to be at least heard, if not brought over for the moment, maybe. Perfect. Peggy, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay.
All right.
I'm ready to go. Whenever you tell me, I'll hit send.
Okay, Peggy has kept the financial proposals sealed they're electronically sealed, so she has not opened up any of the files that have been financial proposals. And she has not sent them to anyone, so no one else could do that either. But we've made arrangements now. She is going to email them to Bob Davis, to myself, and to Sean, in case, and then Bob, I see Bob is waiting. When Bob gets them, he'll be brought in and he will open them and share them on his screen for everyone at the same time. So go right ahead, Peggy.
Okay, I just sent them. So hopefully,
We'll see if this works.
I feel like we need background music.
there's
No.
nine files.
Bob is
because-
calling me. That's not a good sign. Hang on.
Did you get them, Steve?
I haven't gotten them yet.
There's 9 files. One company submitted 2 documents. One is backup information to it.
Okay, Bob said he's on his laptop, so he won't be able to share. So it looks like I will be.
All right, this issue I have is it's sitting in my outbox. So
Do you want me to come down there with a flash drive, Peggy? Would that be easier?
no, I'm probably just gonna have to send it in 2 emails.
Yep,
Okay.
that's fine.
Once I can figure out how to delete this, because now everything's backed up behind it. Okay, let's try
I
this.
told you this would be dramatic.
I know, well, since
Bob's on his way to you.
since they went and they all got accepted.
I
in
just
one-
got it.
Oh,
I got it.
yeah,
No,
I've
no
got.
problem.
Yeah, I have all 9 of them. It looks like.
Sean
this-
has his and Steve Sayers got his.
Yep. Oh, the suspense, Peggy. You added to the suspense. That was
Yeah,
great.
I have 9 files. Okay.
Yeah, 9 files. One company submitted a backup information, so you should have them.
Okay. All right. Unless anyone has anything more to ask about with Peggy, I would suggest that she be placed, well, she can stay here if she wants, clearly, but that Bob Davis also be brought in.
I'll just mute myself.
Okay.
I just saw Bob go the other direction, so he's getting there. But Bob asked me to be the one to open the proposals and share my screen.
Oh, all right.
So I guess just tell me which one to do first. Or does
We're
it
gonna do
matter?
them alphabetical, so it's Anchor.
Okay. Let me wait for Bob to come over first and then I'll just so make sure he's hearing
Oh,
everything.
it's excitement on a.
I know.
April meeting.
This is a energizing way to start your week.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Bob.
Morning, Bob.
Okay, I am going to start sharing. 1 second here. Okay, you can all see this.
Can you reduce the size?
I can try. Is that doing it?
Yep, perfect.
Okay. $38,025. 38025. Peggy, is there anything else you need me to do than that? I will presume no. Okay.
She's muted.
Okay. Next is Steve, will you just tell me which one I need to do next?
Black line.
Black line, thank you. All right, do you see a black line?
If you can reduce it, perfect.
Okay. $38,517. 38517.
Sean?
Yeah.
Just scroll down to make sure they haven't added it. Yeah. Some people might want to see some of the breakdown information that you just passed. Yeah. And that stuff can be looked at after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next is
Can you go to the end of the document?
sure.
Thank you.
Comtech,
I'm assuming that's CMT. That's how this file is.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, Comtech. Okay. $90,000 even. Signed. Okay. Next.
Gibbous,
Okay. Gibbous. $245,000. 245000. I feel like a game show host.
Mhm.
Signed everything.
Interest Systems,
Thank you. Interest systems. $265,400. 265400.
You're going to the end? Yep.
Everything signed.
Yep.
They have this exhibit, which is a timeline, it looks like. Okay.
Moran,
Moran, $400,000 even. 400000. Signed. Okay.
Project 202,
Project 202, $520,625. 520625. That is signed.
If I can just add a comment.
Yeah, there's a second Project 202 file. I
Yeah,
see
and
as
that,
well.
that will just be the basis on how they arrived at their numbers in case anyone's interested after.
All right, so skip that file for the moment, Sean, if you would.
Sure.
RSM,
Okay. RSM. They've got to be all fancy here. $124,108. Signatures, consulting disclaimer. Looks like they've signed as well. So that is all 8 files. Does anyone need me to go back to any of those? Okay. I'll stop sharing for the moment and then turn it back over to Steve.
I assume Steve is updating the table with the prices.
I'm putting them. I should have started this before.
Should have had a whiteboard and done it Wheel of Fortune style, turning the letters.
Like the Price is Right.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Okay. right, let me. I think that's it. There are dollar signs in front of each of those. And now I think it's totally left up to the IT working group, and I can see the IT working group come up with a number of different rankings. If you were supposed to look at the proposals, obviously you gave Project 202 a highly advantageous, and so it's natural that it would have the highest cost associated with it. But that doesn't mean that you are required to go with Project 202. Because of the difference in cost, you might consider that, taking into consideration price, you might want to select another proposal to rank first that you think is still advantageous, although not highly advantageous. The second proposal that was rated, I think, was Gibbous. That's $245,000, less than half that amount. And then RSM and Intra both got advantageous ratings, and RSM is only $124,000, which is half of Gibbous's proposal in rough numbers. So I could see, based upon your evaluations, I could see you coming up and saying you want the best work that you've identified, Project 202, and you're willing to pay that amount. That's what you think it will take to get what you wanted. I could see you going with Gibbous, saying, well, you're going to save $250,000 or $270,000, and they had a strong advantageous rating, or going with RSM and saying they also were going to do a good job, and you're going to save even more money by going with RSM. So I don't know what this is up for your discussion and for your consideration.
Before we begin the discussion, I would find it helpful if Sean could put up the document of the breakdown for Project 202, how they came up with their numbers.
Yes, just give me 1 second. Back to my email.
Oh,
here.
Peggy Nickerson,
Peggy.
you are not muted, Peggy.
Okay, I just want to make sure I can speak. So I just, what Peter just asked for, I think I was reading it. I think it'd be very helpful. It does explain that they've included some personnel that already know us to bridge the gap. So I think it's important to look at that. At the same time, just remember that things like travel, no matter who you choose, those expenses have not been included. So there will be some additional expenses. I just wanted to make sure people did see that document, as Peter had said. That might help in whether someone is going overboard or not giving us enough. I don't know if the proposal asked for some type of schedule, where I think this information helps, and maybe another company did send a schedule as well. That's really all I wanted to say.
Okay.
This is a wide document, so it's not easy to fit into one screen, but I will give you an overview. You can look at the overview here, and then I can zoom in anywhere anyone wants. But so going down here to the financials, looks like this first column is dollars, and this is hours and the hourly rate. And some notes here on each of the individuals.
How far do the additional notes go down?
It's just these columns here. What I could do, why don't I hide these columns, and then you can, I can zoom in here a little bit. Okay, does that make that easier to read?
Yeah, and Sean, in a minute, if you could zoom or scroll down where it said additional notes under the financials. I think the first note I saw that this
Oh,
does
that's what
not
I was
include.
thinking.
Yeah, this does not include travel, I believe is the first note I saw.
Yeah, so looking at the additional notes, then travel expenses are not included. I won't read them aloud. Here, I can zoom in on those even further. I don't want to scroll too fast, so let me know when people are okay with me going down.
John, can we see the rest of item number 4? Oh, okay,
Yes, it
Thank
was
you.
just didn't want to scroll before people were ready.
yeah.
And Peggy, if I could ask you that while we're looking at this, could you let us know whether any either Gibbous Intrasystems or RSM has anything similar in their?
No, the financial information is what was sent to Sean. The only ones that had an additional backup information was Project 202, which is why I wanted to make that comment. Unless they stated it in their proposal, I do not believe things like travel would be included in anybody's proposal. That would all be additional. And no one else, unless it's in their immediate proposal, there's no other backup information that's financial.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I want to ask Sean a question, if I may. Sean, you've worked with Project 202 in the past. What do you think they mean by item number 3?
I think that, let me read it again.
If I may,
Yes, please, Bob.
I think what they're referring to there is that, as we've proceeded along in the website project, there's been, as you're aware, there's been some change orders in that regard, and part of that has been a negotiations in some sort between us and Project 202, in terms of what ends up being billable versus what's going to be something that they're including as part of their contributions to the project.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Having just read this, moments ago, so.
Thank you.
So I have a question that somewhat directed at you, James. I know that prior to the start of the IT working group, or upon our formation, ADK, now Project 202, in February, did an architectural report for us in review. So I'm a little confused as to note 4, if they've already set one out to some extent, started a technology assessment for us in the past with that architectural review, and you being in this space, wondering what your thoughts are as to their financial.
Well, I mean, I haven't really seen anything in that regard at all. I wasn't really party to any of that, so I can't really speak to that.
If I could offer some context, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
This is entirely off of memory, so I just want to, obviously I'm seeing this live with the rest of you, but their initial assessment was really related to architecting diagramming the architecture as it related to the website and not necessarily throughout the entire company. So in that, they have done this assessment only really as it relates to the systems that are feeding the website and not a system-wide assessment. That would be my statement, and my assumption is that that's what they're referring to, needing to do basically that discovery throughout the entire company. But I couldn't say for sure. I just know that the assessment they did and assessments they have done have been limited to the scope of work in front of them currently.
I guess I'm just leaning toward, even though we marked them as highly advantageous, we did have a strong advantageous, and this is more than double the cost of our 3 other ranked proponents.
I have the same concerns as Peter on this. You know, that it's double over Gibis, and the reason for the grade difference for me was that Project 202 is currently working with the steamship. They haven't completed their project yet, where Gibis didn't have that ferry, and that was to me, the real defining between the 2 highest rated proponents.
And I'd go even further too. If I recall, I think we were collectively all impressed with the kind of questions that Gibis posed that need to be answered in terms of a tech audit, and their methodology seemed very sound.
And the one concern we had was the time frame of the 7 months. Having to effectively budget for their recommendations for next year.
You are correct, Mark. I remember that was one of my concerns. So, although we're now looking to pay Project 202 more than $57,000 a week for 9 weeks under their proposal.
Yes. Me personally, I would, on the cost, and I don't know if we're there yet, but I would, based on the presentation and the cost, I would have to rank Gibis highest and see if we can tighten up that schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, IntraSystems should be totally discounted here, given kind of, our history with working with them and their understanding. I think they probably have already the best understanding of anybody in this whole group of much of our existing infrastructure, which I think would only be beneficial, as to the overall schedule. Although most certainly Gibis does have has had a really nice proposal.
If I could just note that both IntraSystems and RSM were ranked, I think, advantageous. And RSM's financial was just about half of IntraSystems. So in my opinion, given kind of the totality of the project and how any one of these items might, when you're looking at everything that's involved in kind of an overall IT, evaluation of our infrastructure, our IT processes, and any one of those items could like branch off and consume much more, I think, than from a cost perspective and a billable rate per hour perspective than what I'm seeing there for RSM. But that's just my opinion. Right. So your concern is that the RSM's financial may not
I don't think it's accurate at
The
all.
amount of work that
Yeah.
the amount of work that might need to be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sean?
Yeah, I don't know if it's available, but did Gibbons put a table together of the project and how many resources and timeline? I don't have it in front of me. Maybe Sean may know.
Yeah, let me pull up.
Wait,
the
I should be able to do it.
It's not part of the in the financial package, so.
Page 18. We have a weekly update of what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so I can't,
Here we go.
whoops,
Hello,
how do I zoom out?
No, you want to zoom in.
that works for me. Can you scroll down when the group's ready, Steve? I'm sorry to ask you all this, but would you mind going up to the tabletop, the headers? So that's a June start and a December finish.
Early January, it looks like.
Okay,
I have a vague memory, I don't know whether it was give us, that they recognize the concern for the budget process, and they thought they could at least give some information at some point during the process. But I speak maybe too fast.
I
It
see
looks like
an initial assessment bullet point in early September, Steve, and like halfway down, there's a blue
no,
dot.
it looks like November 13th, define finalize resource needs and recommendations. November 13th, it looks like that would be available.
Okay.
And the report and roadmap.
Yeah, I would just, looking at Gibbous. I think one of the reasons, at least I gave a strong, rating on it was they have a lot of experience with Massachusetts, state and municipal agencies. And I know as Peggy had mentioned about travel costs, they're located in Boston.
Mhm.
So I think that their proposal or their financial proposal, I don't think has as many potential, I don't want to say hidden costs, but costs above what they're proposing.
and then if I may, Mr. Chair, could you just go to Mr. Ennis's bio? I know I had read it before and I was impressed. I just want to remind myself. I'm sorry, could you just go to the very top? And I apologize, I don't have mine with me. Let me just read that 2 paragraphs.
Sorry.
Thank you. You know, if the group, I'll just make one recommendation. If the group feels that we want to move in this direction, then I think it's key that we make sure that Mr. Ennis is the lead on this project and there's not a bait and switch.
I believe that was their proposal. And that would be inconsistent with the RFP.
And I felt very strongly about Eric Sheehan as well. Can we just go to Eric's background for a minute?
He's a lawyer. I wouldn't hold that against him.
Oh dear, I didn't realize that, Steve.
Nobody's perfect.
I
Yeah,
know.
I know. Some people take the wrong path every once in a while.
You want more? Scroll
Yeah.
down.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay.
The only other thought I had, or not a thought, but just to clear my head a little bit. Would you just pull up project 202's what do you call it, third timeline?
I don't know which file it's in.
I don't remember either. It was in their
They have one
core.
in they have one in the financial proposals. I don't know if,
That's fine. That would, yeah, they did. That would work.
Steve, do you want me to share real quick? I've got it up on my screen.
Or I'll stop mine.
All right, 1 second here. I need to zoom back out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Because speaking from my point of the view from the board, because this will come before me again. I don't know if I can get over the sticker shock of Project 202. The difference between strong, advantageous, and highly advantageous is $250,000. I'd sooner have that $250,000 implementing the plan in the next budget year than having the plan, the consulting done before the normal time that Mark would propose the budget. I'd be happy to be inconvenienced with a special meeting if it's necessary to amend the budget.
And Mr. Chair, what I would propose is that during the process, if I could talk with them and even the reports aren't finalized and get an idea of what's coming down the pipeline and just put in a general category on the budget for potential improvements without putting the horse before the barn or horse for the cart or whatever it is. So,
Got it. Putting money aside to dry dock our computers.
yeah.
And Steve, just remind me, there wasn't anything peculiar or difficult with their contract, right?
I don't believe Gibbous gave us a contract.
Correct.
So it's going to be a slam dunk. We simply award the contract in accordance with their consulting proposal and financial proposal with the revisions that I suggested and you accepted.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah. So just trying to hypothetically or just trying to envision the key things here with Gibbous would be to share with them that we don't want to have the IT working group as their core team they work with, right? That's the big one. Everything else is pretty easy.
Correct.
There was no other issues.
I didn't see any.
You know, I think, yeah, I like Gibbous from the start. I'll say that. Even before I went down alphabetically through these proposals. Gibbous sort of lasted throughout the whole list. And what I was enjoyed about the Project 202 was the already inherent knowledge that they had from working with us. And so I would be like our project chair, or like for Peter, is that it's hard to justify another $250,000 for that knowledge. And like, as I said, Gibbous is Gibbous had a handle on things. They seem to have a nice approach. And I just want to emphasize that it is real important that we would get the people that are designated right now, is that they would continue on throughout the project.
So Steve, at this point, are we looking for a potential motion? I mean, the outcome of our discussion now is to see if we can have a potential motion as to which one of these proponents we recommend to the board through the general manager.
Well, you can recommend, you can rank up to 3 finalists. You can just rank one if you want, that you only are going to make a recommendation with respect to one of the proponents, or you can go up to 3, and in what order your recommendation is. So I'm starting to sense that the first ranked finalist would probably be Gibbous, based upon their consulting and financial proposals with revisions that you've recommended. I don't know whether there is a second ranked finalist, whether it is Project 202, or also James was talking about Intrasystems, which is a little bit more money than Gibbous, but not as much as Project 202. And then RSM, James expressed concern that he did not think that financial proposal reflected a sufficient amount of expected work on the project, even though it's the lowest cost. That's my sense as an observer here.
And then if we rank 2, that's what would be presented to the board.
Correct. I think probably Bob would want to give them the proposals of all the ranked proponents, not all 8. I don't think they have to read the other ones, but the board is going to have a voice in you there. So, and it doesn't have to be awarded at next Monday's meeting if it doesn't. So if they want more information, they can ask for it. And with the recommendation of the IT working group.
Yeah. Bob, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So the question I had, staying on the background on this thus far, had been, was there the emphasis on a timeline to be able to get this done? You know, the basis of me bringing this forward to the board to say that we need to have a review was because of the issues with the opening. And I don't know whether the Gibbous timeline is the same timeline that the other proponents were proposing as well, and how that factors into your evaluations. If we're not going to be receiving at least a preliminary report until November, to be able to make any changes in time for next year's openings, I would think would be challenging. Never mind the budget implications, but so I don't know whether the committee has considered that. I don't know whether there was an expectation expressed during, and I apologize for this, that on when we wanted to get this a report back, at least a preliminary report, and that would be a factor. So and again, I'm not sure what Intrasystems has proposed, or RSM. Those four being the either between those being highly advantageous, strongly advantageous, or advantageous. So I don't know whether that's something the committee would want to consider as well.
I don't know whether the working group could do that at this point, because there was an addendum question about timeline, and the only consideration that the IT working group identified was the budget process. So we did not identify a concern about the reservation opening in that. So I don't, my recommendation is that they not consider that those two are probably closely aligned anyway. So the additional consideration for the reservation opening probably is not, doesn't matter here.
Well, yeah, but so the budget processing, typically, as you're aware, Steve, is that, August, we're putting it all together and presenting a draft, at the Port Council in September and the board in September. So, I just want to, bring that to the committee's consideration as to, any potential impact it would have. So.
And to answer your question, Bob, IntraSystem said 12 weeks was their timeline.
I don't have that in front of me right now.
Yeah, so no, I have it written down. So they were 12 weeks. Gibbous was 7 months. Project 202 was 9 weeks, and RSM was 457 hours. But we don't have a project chart on them. The other thing we could do if we're talking with Gibbous is to answer Bob's concern is during the road mapping, maybe look at the web opening part and the infrastructure process ahead of time, on the project schedule to see if we can implement any of those, as well as that project 202 did say they had some improvements on their website that will help from this year.
Yeah, and I think those definitely are all there. It's just for me, when I think about that portion of things, that entire piece of infrastructure is really still under development. They haven't completed it yet, and so I think it's kind of in the scope of this evaluation. I have some questions there on how we're going to be able to effectively evaluate that, because it's still being developed.
I know as chair, I won't be the one making a motion, but I'm getting the feeling that we're moving towards perhaps looking to recommend to the board, and that being Gibbous, and then IntraSystems perhaps is second. I think in line with kind of their 12-week schedule. Yes, John.
I would probably say that I would be more in favor of making one recommendation. I think timing is really not the primary issue. As Bob pointed out, we're not going to have anything done in order to affect the opening in 2024. And I believe that if you look at side by side, any of the three that we're sort of zeroing in on, Gibbous really does rise to the top. If you take away the numbers and when you throw the numbers back in, they really rise further up to the top. And I always was just holding on to Project 202 for the sole reason that they had the inherent knowledge. So I would like to just make one recommendation.
But may I also offer something?
Yeah.
Because I did find the provision in Gibbous's proposal. I hope this is Gibbous's proposal. We recognize that the timeline for this project pushes up against the fiscal year 24 budget cycle. Are able to have a clear set of options and related cost model in the September-October time period with sufficient information to support the budget process. So they did address that.
Yeah.
I just want to make that clear.
I'd like to add, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I just leave that really the decision. I don't know what Bob's preference would be and your own preference in working with the board, you think it's more beneficial to have more than one. I think that's like some guidance on that from you and Bob.
Bob, would you like to talk first, or would you like?
So typically on these, we generally have in the past have kind of put a, a 1, 2, an A, B, C type ranking. In the event that there was, some issue that arose during contract negotiations, but from what I'm hearing from Steve here is that since Gibbous did not propose a contract, the contract becomes the default.
Correct, they may refuse to sign it, so. I mean-
So I think in terms of it, I think it would be beneficial, even, it's not that you don't have qualified candidates to be, the alternative choices. It would be one thing if you only had one firm that you felt understood the scope of the project and had the capabilities of doing it, as opposed to, you have multiple firms that, have the abilities to be able to perform the services. So.
Steve, if I may ask, if we can recommend with ranking to the board, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And then the concern I hear from Bob is that if we only recommended one, then if contract negotiations, if they refuse to sign the contract, would we have to restart this process?
No, I think you could bring it back. That's what we did, my memory is, with the strategic planning. I think we had looked at the proposals and we had only recommended one finalist for that one. And that we said if it wasn't successful, then we would consider ranking the others. I think that's how we left it for that one. That was unusual, though. We usually do rank at least 2, if not 3.
So my thought is with Bob's concern, and I know that one of the main things that the board is concerned about is kind of time is of the essence. Is I would be open to ranking at least 2 components. Gibbous, obviously, I'm in agreement with John, right? And then deferring to James as to then Intrasystems, especially given his concern with RSM on kind of underestimating what it would take to do this work. Yes, Jim.
I'd like to make a motion that we rank Gibbous as number 1 and Intra number 2 and take that forward to the board.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Ashley, I.
Jay Hill, aye.
Rosemeyer.
Jeffrey, aye.
All right, I think your work here is done.
Is it?
My memory from last meeting is that Mark Rosen volunteered to write the staff summary.
I think we got to review those minutes because I know I know my strengths and weaknesses, and that's not one.
The only thing if I could, Mr. Chair, is address with you, Peter, is what do we do with the outcome of this report, whether it happens in November, December? How do we make sure that this doesn't go up on a shelf, but that it actually gets implemented as those changes are discovered, or those benefits of change are discovered?
That'll be up to the general manager and then the board to set the policy and priorities and then hold the general manager accountable.
Mhm.
Sounds like Bob knows one of his goals for next year.
Right.
I see, Peggy, you have something?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment that the documents that you have should not be sent out. If anyone requests to see the documents, that you direct them to my office and I will send the documents out through here.
All right. And I believe do we allow for public comment since this is a public meeting?
Yes, you do. That's on the agenda.
All right. Do we have anything further from the working group? New
Just
business?
thank you for working with everybody. I enjoyed it.
All right, Bob, you had something else to add?
I just wanted to thank the members of the working group for going through this process. I know it's a tedious process to be going through and going through the volume of materials that you received and trying to come up with an understanding of how they will be able to perform the services. So thank you all.
And a special thank you to Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank
thank
you,
you.
everybody. This was a great experience for me.
Good.
All right, with that, we'll open it up to public comment.
Yeah, I guess if anyone has any public comment, you can hit the raise your hand icon. And seeing none. I think we're good
All
to
right.
go.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
All right. Roll call vote.
Ashley, I.
Jay Hill, aye.
Rosamine.
Jeffrey, aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
work.
Thank you.
See you guys.